All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday, everyone. This is Under the Scope. I am your host, Kimberlon B, coming back at you with some more fantabulous stuff. So I am so excited. I wonder if you missed me last week. I hope so. But I was actually, engaging in self care. And we've talked about self care. We have to get our self care in, especially during the pandemic. So I went ahead and took self care. And how many of you all know that self care is not selfish? So, anyway, a little bit about me. I'm Kimberlon B. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Phoenix, Arizona. I work with people from all walks of life, co occurring disorders, children's, adult, you name it, anyone that's trying to get to their potential, I'm willing to come alongside of them. How Under the Scope came about was that I wanted to have the ability to reach more people and spread the importance of mental health awareness. And so I decided to just go out, launch, reach out to people like I did with my special guest today and another person I had on my show that's on here. And I was like, hey, can you come on here and share your talents, knowledge, skills, and whatever you have for mental health awareness? And they said yes. So from there, Under the Scope was born. And we started in August and we've been going, going, going. I've actually had, I think Erica is, that's on here today, is actually my 20th guest on the show. So I'm excited for where I've been and where we're trying to go. And the sky is limitless. So I'm planning to just dominate wherever I can. So, with Under the Scope, any information on the show is for conversational, inspirational, and educational purposes. And it does not substitute you getting a higher level of care if you need to. Feel free to reach out in the chat privately to me, Kimberlon B. Find me on Facebook, Kimberlon B, or just look for me on Instagram. It's focus. It's long, y'all. It's focus underscore living underscore counseling underscore LLC. And that's where you can find me. So please message me if you need any connections. Yes, I'm in Arizona, but if we need to connect you in another state, I have fabulous friends in other states, or we can find places to connect you. But today, I am excited for the guests that I have on the show. And as I mentioned earlier, I was reaching out to people when I had this brilliant idea. And I reached out to Erica like last year and was like, hey, because she made this awesome book and she'll talk more about it today. And I was like, can you come on my show? And she was like, yes. And I was excited about it. And we're finally here. It's been months that we've been waiting for her to come on. And I'm so glad that she agreed to come on Under the Scope. So before I turn it over to her, because she has a presentation today, and however we can get the knowledge out, I want the knowledge to be out. So we have the chat feature on the side. If you have any questions or comments for Erica, or you can actually raise your hand and she'll either call on you or you can wait until we take Erica under the scope. At the end, that gives you an opportunity to ask Erica any questions and see if she'll be able to answer those questions for you or point you in the right direction. So I'm excited. Erica said yes to come on the show. She's a licensed professional counselor and she's an author of 110 writing prompts to cope with depression. So if you don't know what to write about, her book will help you and it's very inspirational and interactional. But I am going to turn the floor over to her without further ado. Erica Gilliams, LPC. Drive the train.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am going to share my screen and everyone can see this, right? Right.
I can.
Okay. All right. I forgot everybody's name. Sorry. 1 second. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. The topic of discussion today is coping with depression. All right. So today's lineup, you will learn symptoms of depression and how to cope with depression and many more. All right, so who am I? I have been a therapist for over 10 years. I'm a certified clinical supervisor. I am native to South Jersey. I attended Rowan University and Wilmington University for my master's. I've been in private practice for 2 years and I work with women and teens, sorry, teens and families, and also women. All right, so let's kind of get some interaction going on. Let's get to know each other. Um, Hopefully I can see the raise hand feature. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free. I'd rather you do that than raise your hand. So first question, do you know someone with depression? Does anybody want to raise their hand?
I see Kayla's raising her hand.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I do apologize. I can't see the hand raising.
It's okay. I got you. So
Thank
Kayla
you.
raised her hand and Joyce raised her hand.
Yay. If you experience low periods during this pandemic period, I have. I'll raise my hand.
I'm gonna raise both hands.
Yeah, it's so real. You want to support a friend with depression, but you don't know how.
Oh, my bad. Excuse me. I'm a counselor, but sometimes it's rough
It is. It
with
is rough.
friends.
Yeah, and especially if you're not in the mental health field, you kind of don't know how to help someone. So just some quick suggestions, just checking with them if you see that they're not calling as much as they used to, they're not eating like they used to. You can bring food, offer to go grocery shopping with them, just to be a friend, just to even do like a Netflix and chill over the phone. Sometimes people with depression don't necessarily want to talk about what's going on, but I think just bringing them out of that shell and having them not to be as isolated and being supportive can do wonders. And then the next one, are we too hard on ourselves? I am. Plus a foot. That's me. All right. So I was also asked to briefly talk about something of self-love, right? Because I notice it's February, Valentine's Day month. And I want to briefly talk about self-compassion. Self-compassion really involves how we respond to ourselves in the same manner that we would respond to a friend. If you've, done poorly on a report, maybe at work, you will beat yourself up, right? Some of us would. But if a friend came to you with that same information, what would you say to them? Take your time. It's okay. Get more clarity. I feel like you'll be more supportive of that friend who's going through the same situation as you. But when we have the same situation, we tend to beat ourselves up a lot more. All right, so how to be more compassionate to yourself. I have two ways. The first one I kind of alluded to earlier is give yourself advice as if you was a friend, right? So whether that's a verbal conversation with yourself or even writing a letter. Next is a supportive touch. I love this one. I do this personally. So you can touch yourself in different ways. I prefer like hand over heart. When you do this, just gently focus on your breathing, the pacing, any emotions that you're experiencing, and just stay in that feeling in that moment as long as you can. Since we are mammals, we're animals, we love that physical touch. I read a study that when people drink tea, they just want something warm, right? So I feel like we're giving that back to ourselves, that warmth, and being present with ourselves. If you're uncomfortable with this, you can touch any part of your body. So maybe put your hand on your belly. You can hold your hands like this, however way you choose, or even a big hug. But I prefer this.
You know what I like, Erica, what you talked about that letter? That is so spot on because I talked to some of the clients about that. And actually, on those good, happy days, even writing those letters are ideal. And then when you're feeling like down in the dumps or something, pick that letter up. I
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm. So not to jump the gun, but I do recommend journaling to my clients. And one biggest thing that I hear is I don't have anything to journal about, especially when things are kind of going good, right? Like you had a good day at work, good day with relationships, kids. It's nothing sad to write about, but write about the good moments and write about how you felt in those moments. So when you do have a day that's not your best, you can pick up and reflect on that great moment that you had. So thank you for adding that. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty. What is depression? When emotions such as hopelessness and despair take hold, I'm sorry, and they just don't go away, you may have depression. Now, this is not, you had one rough day, you had maybe two bad days in a row. These are persistent symptoms that are lasting for a good 2-week period. All right, so when you're in this state, right? So a lot of things can be affected. So work, study, your sleep, and not really enjoying yourself, right? I chose this picture of this young lady because it seems like she's in a party, right? She's dressed up, she has her champagne, and she doesn't seem like she really wants to be there. So your social life and how you interact with others can definitely be affected by feelings of depression. Does anybody else want to give examples? If not, I will move on. Feel free to just jump right on in. Okay. No.
Examples, anyone?
I don't want to rush, but I also don't want to make you feel uncomfortable if you're not jumping in. So just feel free to stop me whenever you want, and I'm okay with that. Not a problem. All right. So some clients will say it's like living in a black hole or having feelings of impending doom. Others feel lifeless, empty, and apathetic. So the idea of having strong emotions is kind of depleted, like you feel empty, nothing. The opposite of empathy or being empathetic to someone, it's apathetic. All right. So by understanding depression and recognizing the different symptoms and types of depression, you can take the first step to feel better. I definitely do not recommend diagnosing yourself. Either go to a licensed professional counselor or a psychiatrist or psychologist. Anyone with a license in mental health can give you a formal diagnosis. So let's go through these symptoms, signs and symptoms. So feeling helplessness and hopelessness. Really thinking that one situation is not going to get better. There is like no way that you can get over this problem that you're experiencing. And because of that, sometimes we withdraw, right? So there's like a loss of daily interest that we're usually having, or as like hobbies, anything you could think of. And honestly, sex is one of them, because that's, once again, that's kind of back to that feeling isolated, that you're not worth it. There's, thoughts of hopelessness, and you really just don't have the ability to feel joy. That part is like stripped away from you. Other signs and symptoms, you have your appetite, weight changes. So anytime there's like a 5% decrease or increase, right? That's something that you really want to focus on. And sleep changes. Sleep is the biggest thing where I feel like mental health is affected, whether it's anxiety, ADHD, bipolar, any type of mental health. Sleep is a big trigger. So getting enough sleep is very imperative. Sometimes I have issues sleeping. So what I do is I do meditation at night. I have this app called the Oak app, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But also I started doing sound baths. So they're big Tibetan bowls, and it's on YouTube. This guy sits around and rounds his wand, around this bowl. And the sounds, they really affect your body and your brain waves. And it's very, very calming. Just a quick story. I did it for the first time about 2 weeks ago. And then I had a dream that I told someone that it was amazing. So this really, really is amazing. It works for me. Everything is not going to work for everyone, but just trying different things and being willing to be open-minded to find relief. That's very, very important. Next is feeling irritable or just being angry. So whether that's a temper, even, physical violence, loss of energy, which is, I think, a big one, right? I'm very sluggish. You just don't want to do anything. And that can also lead to oversleep. All right. So coming to the end of the signs and symptoms, we have self-loathing, right? So we just want to stay in that woe is me type of mindset. Some clients will say that it is fulfilling, like they feel something when they focus on these thoughts versus trying to focus on positive thoughts. It doesn't feel as organic because you're in that space of just like sadness. And that's, they like it. However, it's definitely not the best way to handle depression. And we will kind of get to some ways that you can challenge your thinking and different activities to do. All right, so some examples. I can't do anything right as a part of self-loathing. I always mess up, right? Back to that report, maybe. And no one takes me seriously. Right? So reckless behavior is another one. Using substances, gambling, driving uncontrollably. I feel like, once again, right? So I feel like people with depression, they have this idea that things are not going to get better, that it's hopelessness. So why not do these extreme behaviors? Issues concentrating. So depression, the thoughts that we have is a part of our front part of our brain, which is the executive functioning section. So it's hard to think clearly and also be depressed. Our brain can't really decide the two. So when you are depressed, having issues concentrating is something that it's real. And making decisions as well, right? And body pains. Let's not take this for granted. I'm not a doctor, so I fully can't explain this word to you, but I do know that people with depression do experience physical ailments, whether it's back pain, shoulder, or just other physical medical issues. All right, so pro tip number one, before you think about, oh, do I have depression? You definitely want to go and talk to your doctor, right? You want to rule out things. So once again, I'm not a doctor, but I did some research. So hypothyroidism and anemia, they both affect your mood, how tired you are, your weakness. And as I mentioned earlier, your energy level and being sluggish is affected by depression. And I'm sure there's many others, but this is what I found directly. So you always want to talk with a doctor, get your levels, and if things are okay, then I feel like you can seek other forms of therapy.
I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but I'm glad that you brought that up about the physical health, because I like to tell people that physical health does impact mental health and vice versa. So,
Yes, definitely.
all right. So thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. All right. So when you're feeling depressed or suicidal, your problems do not seem temporary. They seem overwhelming and permanent. But with time, you will feel better, especially if you get help. There are other people who want to support you during this difficult time. So please reach out as a message. Sorry. So question, feel free to raise your hand or just jump on it. Is it okay to use the word suicide to someone who is suicidal? And the answer is, it is okay. It is okay to call a thing what it, call a thing what it is, right? So many times that we use words of, did you think about taking your life? Are you just feeling like really, really low now? Call it what it is. I feel like that person will respect it. And it will also kind of pull back the curtain so I feel like they can see how others truly see them, instead of using words that may be more softer for that person to say, but your friend is really the person who's really suffering. So just call it what it is. It's called suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And here is a 1-800 number, 1-800-273-TALK. And it's a suicide hotline. Okay. All right, so here are some fun facts, right? Did you know that depression affects over 18 million adults, 1 out of every 10 any given year? And I'm assuming 2020, that will probably be more, more intense. So maybe even 1 out of 5. I'm just kind of making that up, honestly. But our mental health was definitely tested and affected last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now, really. Second is first episode usually starts in your mid-20s. Third, is primary reason for someone who dies every 12 minutes of suicide. So that's over 41,000 people a year, which is
Wow.
difficult, right? Yeah. So, we'll be on this call for about an hour and a half. And I don't even want to think about that, but that is the truth. So it's okay to reach out to help, even if you feel like it's not that bad or I can deal with it. Just reach out for help. I'd rather you have a therapist when things are good, because things are always going to go wacky, because this is life and this is a pandemic, right? This is America. And you have family, other things going on. And then when you do have that event that is stressful, you already have that rapport, you already have that go-to session, and you feel more comfortable. Just a side note, don't think of therapy as every week for an hour. Sometimes you don't need every week for an hour, right? Whether you're just starting off or whether you're at the end of it, it's truly up to you and your counselor. You can have bi-weekly check-in sessions. You can even have monthly sessions. So don't feel like I have to commit 1 hour to therapy. It's truly up to you. And also anxiety can be linked to depression.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Uh,
That's what I tell my clients. I said they are the ugly cousins. You can either have one or the other, or they will double team you.
I know they're going to follow each other, right?
Yes.
Because I
And
do. Go ahead.
now I was going ready to probably say what you said. Because if someone battles with depression, the anxiety may come from why am I depressed all the time, trying to identify the reason. And if someone battles with anxiety, you may become down because you're trying to figure out why am I anxious all the time.
Mhm. Yes, right. So it's like those feelings of guilt, and then it's like, why me? They are definitely connected, and oh, it's real. Question: what do you think some life triggers that may lead to a depressive episode will look like? Um, so I'll just throw some out. Feel free to kind of just pop in there. I think a loss of someone, a change of even a change of work, the pandemic, anything. And then if you truly do have depression, right? So I feel like there's 2 ways you can get it. It's either genetic, it's a strong biological component, just like anxiety, also, or situational. So if there's a genetic component to it, sometimes you just wake up in a bad mood, right? The wrong side of the bed, but you could wake up on the wrong side of the bed for a good week. So it's not necessarily a life trigger. It could just be how your brain or how your cycle of depression goes, right? What does depression look like to you? It looks different for everyone, especially genders. I feel like in my practice with teens and adults, I see men are more aggressive, they use more substance abuse, they are more risk takers. And then you have women who are more isolated, who kind of just stay to themselves and don't talk, and then have all these like feelings of guilt and shame about what's going on. But it also looks different, for person to person, not necessarily gender. Okay. All right. The cycle of depression. I love this section. So first you have a beginning event, right? Coming back to this
Mhm.
pandemic. Hopefully that's not triggering for you guys. But it's real, right? A breakup, a loss, and then you have the feelings that are associated with it. So whether it's confusion, loneliness, helplessness. And then you have that behavior change. I feel like this is really important. So either you can take those feelings and deal with it and be present with it, not deal with it. I'm not minimizing it, but just be present with it. Um, or you can kind of go into like more of a negative spiral when we come to the depression change. So whether that's being more isolated, irritable, eating or sleeping more or less. So when you are experiencing that cycle of depression, really focus on the behavior change. Sorry. All right. And then next you have your negative thoughts that are connected to that main event, right? So whether you continue to internalize that I feel worthless, nothing good can come my way, and then you start to have more of those unhealthy feelings, and it is a cycle. So what to do? What now, right? So I have 3 suggestions for now. First, you want to identify your triggers. And sometimes your triggers are not necessarily situations, but it's people, family, your coworkers. You may have a negative Nancy in the office and you just don't want to be near that person. I know I have that. Certain energies don't vibe with you well and they can be triggering. So definitely identify your triggers. And then you want to notice the unhealthy behavior changes. So once again, whether that's using substances, having the self-blame, the self-harm, or even, isolating yourself more. Keep on hitting the arrow, and I should hit the arrow on the screen. That's the issue. um, I know. All right. So the third part of what now? Create a routine. This is huge. Our brain, as well as if you have anxiety, our brain loves structure. It's the way that we feel safe, we feel grounded. I know you hear it all the time, but it's true, right? These are all evidence-based things that I'm talking to you guys about. So small changes, whether that's maintaining your hygiene, because I didn't talk about that, but that is one thing that suffers is when you are depressed, your hygiene, whether it's brushing your teeth, shower, you name it. Be persistent and consistent with your routine. But once again, it's small changes. It doesn't have to be anything big. And also be realistic. So what can that look like? Like what can these activities look like? Whether that's calling a friend. And then you want to figure out what time of day to do it, whether that's first thing in the morning, whether that's after maybe you eat lunch at 12 o'clock, and really write this down on the calendar, make it visual for you. The time of day that you're going to do it, the day, I'm sorry, and then the potential barriers. Because as soon as we hit a roadblock, we're like, I'm not doing it. I don't care. No, have a backup. So example, call a friend. Maybe you have 3 friends. You call one friend. If they don't pick up, then call a second friend. Somebody's going to pick up. Walk a pet. I feel like a barrier for that could be it's raining, inclement weather. So always think about like why you're doing what you're doing, right? So calling a friend gets you out of that isolated moment. Walking a pet gets you outside, gets you to absorb the vitamin D, which is good for our brain, good for mood health. And it's exercise, it's moving our blood around and our brain responds to that. So what else can you do to bring you joy, right? If you can't go outside, then play with your pet in the house. Exercise, meditate, cooking, journal, and practice gratitude. This is one of my other favorite ones to do with my clients, because when we are in a slump, our brain is, forget the slump, our brain is wired to think of the negative, and that is a self protective mechanism that we have. So just think way back in the caveman days, and they had to, gather food. So if they saw 2 types of berries, one was red and one was maybe pink, our brain is going to say the pink one causes harm. So we're always going to look out for the negative because that's how we protect ourselves. But it also can backfire, right? So when we are in a slump, we think of the negatives and we start to spiral. So think about the things that bring you joy, why you're grateful for certain things or certain people. I like to focus on the people versus the things, because the things are just materialistic and they really don't fulfill us. And I hit the keyboard. All right, so pro tip number 2, write down your unhealthy behavior changes and do the opposite. So a little bit about, I feel like the last slide, if you are isolated, that's a behavior change. Call a friend. If you don't like to necessarily shower when you are super depressed, maybe lay out like a really nice lounge outfit where you can like do your work at home. It's bright, it's colorful, anything to motivate you to do the opposite of what you need to do. Because the truth of the matter is, Getting out of your slump is not always easy, and it's not always as easy as people saying, just get over it. It's okay. Your life is perfect. You have a husband, you have kids. Why are you upset? It's more genetic and biological. So it's not always easy, but I feel like if we build those small changes in, it will make a lasting effect. And it won't be as intense as if you did nothing, right? So something is always better than nothing. Question: what are some tasks that suffer when someone is feeling depressed? Like I said, guys, you could just jump on in. Um, Anything, right? Whether it's taking care of the kids, whether it's concentrating on that one report at work and you look at it and you just want to get it done, but you're not focused on it. Whether that's speaking up for yourself at staff meetings or even towards your partner, the cleanliness of your house, daily chores, these things can all suffer when we're feeling sad and depressed. I don't, and then another thing, right? I don't know about you, but my mind works so well when things are clean. If my desk is cluttered at work, my mind is cluttered. So that is something that I know that I need to maintain a clean space. Right. So the last thing to what now, right? Number 4, notice and challenge your thoughts. This is my favorite. And I even have a list of these in my journal that I'll kind of get to later. But what is the evidence that this thought is not true? That this thought is true versus not true? So at this section, we are really challenging our negative thoughts. So whether good things don't come my way, I'm worthless, even thoughts from our parents that we experienced years ago, right? I had this one thought from my cousin, and she said something about like, oh, I'm not ever going to get into college because my SAT scores were low. And I said, okay, whatever. I'm still going to go and do what I need to do. Now I have my master's. Now I'm like, I'm okay. But every now and again, like those negative thoughts, sometimes they just creep back in. So I challenge them, right? Like, look at me now. Where am I? Where am I at in the present? So I challenge you to do the same. The next one, what would you tell a friend, right? If you had this thought, a part of that self-compassion. Is there another way of looking at the situation or an alternative explanation? This is another of my favorites because when we, and also the last one, I'll kind of chunk them together, but I feel like when we are depressed, we don't see the good. We don't see how far we came. We just see the now, or we feel the now, and it's like empty. So what is another way of looking at the situation? And everything isn't always about us. So kind of putting yourself in that person's shoes. And then kind of reflecting back on your situation. What might this situation, I'm sorry, how might I look at this situation if I didn't have depression? All right,
I
so
like that. I want, sorry to interrupt. I
no.
really like that you mentioned that as well about challenging those thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
And just like Erica was saying, those negative thoughts. And I also call them automatic thoughts. And that's why therapy can be so important because those thoughts pop up so fast. I like to even call them our worst case scenario thoughts because we have them and they just come and then we just go with them because we don't realize that it's like if that's our thought then I need to go with it, but we don't realize the impact of entertaining that thought, so to speak, and going into therapy, plugging into therapy. You working along with your therapist will help you identify that you are having that thought and the impact of those thoughts that may be contributing to your depression, anxiety, or whatever else is going on. So I'm glad that she brought that up. Spot on, Erica.
Cheers, thank you. And well, I guess a question for you real quick. So a lot of my clients will ask after we identify the automatic thoughts and ways to challenge them, will they ever go away? So my answer is no. However, it's how we respond and react to them. Well, more or less respond, right? Because we don't react. React is more impulsive. How we respond to them can change over time. And that's when the real work happens in therapy. Would you
Agreed.
agree with me?
Oh, I agree 100% because I even share not too much self disclosure with them. I'm like, my triggers are going to the store. And if something's happened before you know it, The therapist Kimberlon is out the window, and I am me, the human first. So, but I have to like really back in to figure out what am I thinking right now? What's going on? And so I have to walk myself through that same process.
Yes, like what is your core belief? Like, is it you not feeling safe? And usually it's like safety and
Hmm.
control. I feel like our brain needs that. And when we don't have it, things go kind of haywire.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing. And all right, additional coping skills, breathing. I'm going to actually have some videos for that, and we can breathe along with them. Supportive apps and journaling. I'll explain more. All right, so breathing is a great way of calming the body, listening to the body. Um, I am not a teacher necessarily, so I figure I will have some YouTube videos to explain it and demonstrate it for you guys. They're about 2 minutes long, but I really believe that they are valuable. So the first one is square breathing, and I would say this is the easiest to remember out of all of them. Just think of a box, and we're gonna go into the,
And this is for everyone.
oh, yeah, you don't even have to have depression. Even if you have issues like sleeping or
square breathing. With your back straight and body relaxed, let your arms hang by your side if you're standing, or if you're sitting, rest your hands on your knees. Now we're going to silently count to 4 as we breathe. Follow the picture on your screen and breathe in as the arrow moves up one side of the square. Hold your breath at the top. Breathe out as the arrow moves down the other side, and hold your breath again at the bottom. Okay, starting on one side of the square. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out all the way, 3, 4, and hold your breath, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Keep going, sinking your breath to the arrow. Breathe out and hold. Breathe in and hold. Breathe out and hold. Breathe in and keep going while you follow the arrow on your screen.
okay. Oh boy, go back. All right. Yes. So that was the first exercise, is square breathing. Super easy to remember. Just think of a square. So you're going in through your nose. You're going to hold it for 4 seconds, and then you're going to breathe out for 4 seconds, and you're going to keep that pattern going. Things to remember when you are doing breathing. You definitely want to make sure that you're going in through your nose, because it filters the air as it enters your body. And then you want to breathe like a baby breathes, right? So you want your belly to go up and down. And the deeper you breathe in to your lungs, it helps to oxygenate the blood more. Once again, I'm not a doctor, but I did read up on that. And it's so interesting, because I feel like people, especially your kids, if you're a parent and you have kids, and the guidance counselor may say, oh, practice deep breathing. It's so many types of breathing. And honestly, it's probably about 30 or 40 of them. I just did 3. But one key thing to remember with any coping skill, practice it and master it before you get stressed. Don't think that, oh, I'm going to have a stressful moment and feel sad and then pop and then use this one coping skill. Remember, the brain can't figure out stress and problem solving correctly, right? So it's like either or. So if the brain is stressed, you thinking correctly kind of goes out the window unless you've mastered that skill. And if you haven't mastered that skill, we kind of go back to our maladaptive behaviors where we feel safe. And that could be drinking or the unhealthy behaviors, as I stated earlier. So the next 2 are a little intense, but I wasn't sure of, where people are at. But I'm going to pop the YouTube video in, and we're going to go along with it. This is equal breathing. Make it big.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Mindful Minute. We're going to focus on equal parts breath today. There are three basic areas of the body that you breathe in. The first is up around the clavicle. The second is in the main part of the lungs. And the third is the lower part of the lungs, which is often cued as abs or diaphragm. That's just a locator. We actually don't breathe into our abs or diaphragm, but it helps us be mindful of which part of the body and how deep we should pull the breath. We're going to work on equal parts breath. We want an equal inhalation as well as an exhalation. And we're going to focus on cueing clavicle, lungs, and abs to help our mind connect the breath to these areas of the body. So sit up nice and tall. Close your eyes and focus up at your brow ridge, or choose a point about 4 feet in front of you and focus on it. Take a nice long deep breath in. Exhale hard. 2 more times. Take a nice long deep breath in. Exhale hard. Last time, nice long deep breath in. Exhale hard. And here we begin. Breathing in, abs, lungs, and clavicle. Exhale, clavicle, lungs, and abs. Breathe in, abs, lungs, and clavicle. Exhale, clavicle, lungs, and abs. Breathe in, abs, lungs, and clavicle. And exhale, clavicle, lungs, and abs. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in. Suspend the breath for just a moment and exhale and relax. As you get better at the counting or equal parts breath, you can start to expand the length from 4 to 6 to 8 counts and even go further than that. I hope you enjoyed this Mindful Minute.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but I'm going to go back into my presentation.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you're actually showing those breathing techniques. And I know sometimes we can look at it and be like, oh my gosh, especially if we are not familiar with the concepts of breathing. But I mean, they actually work wonders. I actually do them for myself, especially the one you were getting ready to show next. That's like my favorite breathing tactic.
Thank you. All right. This is not where I left off at, and I do apologize. I don't know what happened, but we're not far yet. All right. So as you can tell, right, that was a little bit more advanced, and this one, it's, I guess, more in the middle. So every breathing technique has its own necessarily go-to. So it's really great to read it, understand what it is, and practice, and find the one that works for you. All right.
Did you share the screen?
Oh, of course not, because we make mistakes. My bad.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right, and okay. I do apologize. I did not link this one because once again we make mistakes. So let me be kind to myself and say it's okay. So if you're interested in this one particular breathing exercise, it's called 4-7-3. So in essence, do you want to explain it, Kim, or do you want me to?
Oh, I can explain it because it's like my favorite one. So it's similar to the other ones, well, that you saw, but you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and then you inhale for 4 and you hold for 7 seconds and you exhale for 8. And you may when you're doing it, but it actually calms you down. And it's really good not only for depression, anxiety, and it also helps with sleep as well. And there's videos on YouTube on the 478 breathing.
Mhm. Thank you. All right. So, a quickie, do this every day, right? So, you want to build a routine. You want to exercise or stretch because if you are feeling depressed, are you really going to work out? Like, like let's just be realistic, right? With that schedule we talked about. I'm sorry, consistent and realistic. So, if you're not going to exercise, stretching is still ideal because you're still moving your body, you're getting that blood flow. And right, so how I mentioned about the body ailments and just feeling tight, stretching can definitely relieve some of the tension in your neck and lower back, and that can help. Create a gratitude list. Get in touch with your spirituality. Avoid drugs or alcohol. Set small goals and get at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I know when I don't sleep, I'm grumpy. Just leave me alone. I have issues concentrating, so sleep is so important. If you don't take anything from this presentation, get your hours of sleep. Prioritize your sleep and build a fun sleep routine, right? Like maybe a couple times a week you have a full-on experience in a shower, right? Or a bath, however you choose. But maybe that's a good scrub, that's a good oil, a good body oil, because I used it today. Even doing like eucalyptus in the shower, and then when the steam hits it, it will release that scent, and it definitely calms your body. Doing whatever you can to just kind of set the tone to start to wind down your body to relax. Another tip to help you sleep at night is don't do your work in the bed, right? Like sleep is for your room, sleep is for your bed. So if you're working from home like me, avoid doing any work in your bedroom, do it outside. So when the brain sees your bed in your bedroom, it's time to wind down or clean your room and fold your clothes. Practice makes perfect. Forgive yourself when you fall short. And I forgave myself for not linking that video. And Kim saved the day, right? So things are not usually always that bad. All right, so we're winding down to the end. Supportive apps. Oak is one of them. It's an affirmation app, so it gives you affirmation throughout the day. They are huge. And recently, I will say recently for me, because I haven't really heard of them outside of Clubhouse this year, is intentions. And there's so many Clubhouse rooms on intentions and setting intentions. And I feel like they are more goal oriented and something that you're going to receive during that day. So between affirmations and intentions, they are very important. And I say them in the mirror, like not as I'm brushing my teeth, but as I'm doing like my morning routine, I look myself in the mirror and I say them. And if you say it enough, you will believe it. And Happify, that is an app that will track and give you suggestive coping skills for depression. It's pretty cool. All right, so journaling is something that I mentioned earlier, right? Do it as you please, right? It's not always about feeling stress. Sometimes it's about just writing down your good moments so you don't forget, and also you can reflect. And all right, so just some quick tips to help you journal. Write in a private and personalized space that is free from distractions. Second step, write at least 3 or 4 times a week, aiming for consecutively. But once again, just do it as you please. I feel like when we put barriers and directions into something new that we're learning, we can easily give up. So just write when you feel like it. But overall, that is the goal, to write at least, I would say at least like 5 to 6 times a week. Yes. Step 3, give yourself some time and reflect and balance yourself while you're writing. It's okay to kind of sit with those moments while you're writing and just be present with yourself. And don't write as a task, write to be intentional. And you're doing it for you, right? You don't want to be quick. This is your time. Step 4, if you're writing to overcome trauma, Once again, write how you feel. Don't feel obligated to write anything that's going to be triggering necessarily, especially if it's traumatic. You might want to, work that out with a therapist first. But also, as a pro tip that I just thought about now, when once again, right, when we're learning coping skills and we want to implement them, so really master some type of breathing technique or meditation. So if you are journaling and you get triggered, you can use a coping skill. You can use your breathing. And step 5, structure the writing however you see fit, right? So some people write a journal with more like prompts. Some people are just good with plain paper. Some people use a bullet journal. I don't have one right here in front of me, but it just has the dots and it's more of a free flowing way of writing. And you're not restricted by the lines on the paper. Keep your journal in a safe, private place for your eyes only. All right, so quick question. Why did I create this journal and who can benefit from it? I created this journal because I was doing it already in my private practice. So just quickly, I do private practice on BetterHelp, which is an app where you can get therapy naturally. And you can do video, you can do text, you can do phone calls, but there's also a chat message. So throughout the week, I would send affirmations, I will send journaling prompts on various topics, and my clients were loving them. And to the point where they're like, I need my prompts. I'm like, I'm glad you love them, but let's work on being more independent, because if I don't get to the message, I don't want you to not use a skill that's great for you. But I realized that it was so much value to my clients and I had so much material and I wanted to personalize it for depression. So that's a quick story of why I created it. And I'm also a very creative person. So this was kind of like self-soothing in its own right. And I can help more people, which is even better. And so I'm a therapist, right? Like, I have to be willing to help. So what's in the journal, right? There 110 insightful writing prompts. And once again, they're all geared towards depression. So there's a little bit of grief, relationships, symptoms of depression, support. They're all about depression and ways to feel better. So just as a quick structure, one second. All right, yeah. So this is a good page that I opened up. So the first part, right? So on your left, mostly you're always going to find a coping skill, a positive affirmation, or even just a inspiring short story. So in this example, this is a coping skill. It is steps to practice mindfulness daily, right? So here's about 2 right here, walks you through. And then here's a writing prompt. And then on the page after, it continues with how to practice meditation daily. All right, so that's that. And just quickly, journaling has been shown to be effective in helping people manage their depressive symptoms and any other type of mental health, I feel like. Or you don't even need mental health. If you just want to like process things and write it on paper, it's so cathartic and releasing to write it down and to see it. So real quick, Kim, where are we at with time? Because I do have some discussion questions, or we can jump into the other segment.
I know we probably have about a good 5 minutes.
No, that's fine.
We
Oh,
can stretch it to 10 or 15. I know I have some questions in the chat for you also.
okay. So how about we just jump into the questions? I'll just leave off with get social with me, and I did not add my Instagram,
Uh,
but it's my name.
oh no, you gonna have time to let people know where to find you and your book.
Yes, okay. So here's my email, and like Kim said, if you need any resources or any suggestions, feel free to email me. I want to help. That's why I'm here. And also on my webpage, I have certain ebooks on depression and other things. And I have blog articles. So you can go to shop and learn all things mental health at ericagilliams.com.
Nice.
It.
We'll probably put it into the chat also for you.
Okay.
All right. And I just want to say, even before we take you under the scope, I know it was lengthy, but to me, it's well needed, especially with depression, because there's so many people that's struggling with depression. And I was like, this time is great. When I reached out to you last year, I know it was more for like you were saying at the beginning, for the relationships, and this is a time of loneliness. But who knows, with this pandemic and everything else, politics, whatever's happening, people losing loved one, that this journal and this presentation on depression was so well needed, because there's so many people that are suffering in silence. So yes, even though it was lengthy, I appreciate it, because we need to get the word out, because people are suffering from depression continually. And it's like we can't even catch a break from this depression. If it's not the pandemic, it's politics, it's COVID,
Mhm.
losing loved ones, losing jobs, financial situations, divorces, domestic violence. I can go on and on.
Because increase.
So, yeah, so depression, it's there, it's real. And I wanted Erica to cover the signs and symptoms, how it affects us, and solutions. Not only that, because we're familiar with the problems, some of us probably know how it feels, but how do I get out of this? What steps do I take? So I was glad that she gave us this information. And we do have questions for you, Erica.
Real quick,
Uh-huh.
did I not share my screen anymore?
Let me see. I didn't see it at
I
the
don't know how to,
end.
I don't know how to unshare my screen,
Oh, let me
but
see.
okay.
I think we can see you now.
Okay.
Okay. You're good.
Okay.
So, some of the questions, so everybody, we're getting ready to take Erica under the scope. This is where we have questions from you, our comments. So we will go back in the chat, and I will ask you one of the questions you already answered. There's a question in the chat. How do you determine an illness, if an illness is causing depression?
Okay, yeah. But also just honestly just going to your doctor. That will be the main idea. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So going to your doctor. Another question was, is depression a mental illness?
Yes, yes, it is. So either you have the genetic aspect of it or it could be more situational, but it is.
All right. Awesome. Let me see. Another question I have. What advice can you give to a person who has clear signs of depression but does not want the stigma associated with getting professional help?
Great question. And that is, I feel like the biggest hindrance when it comes to mental health is like reaching out for help. Um, the first thing that came to my mind is find a therapist that looks and talks like you.
Hmm.
When I see my clients, I am like this. I am not, hi, how are you? I'm so happy. No, I cannot be fake. This is just me. This is me. So find somebody that looks and talks like you, and hopefully that they're genuine on that side, you know, I guess from their perspective, and that may help ease some of your anxiety of being judged, because that's really what it is. You don't want to be judged. But I feel like if you can look at somebody and feel comfortable, whether it's the same gender, race, that's one of my suggestions.
Any quick words, like if someone was, you see they were suffering and they may have stigma or not, like how would you approach them? Like, you may want to go see someone, or do you have words on how to approach them?
Um, do you want to feel better? What what do you think you need to feel better? I feel like that's what people want. They want relief, right? So asking them what can help them feel better. What is going on right now? Be relatable to that traumatic situation or that situation with the friend, because we've all kind of experienced similar situations, whether it's a divorce or having kids with postpartum depression. There's nothing too big or too shameful to why you have depression. You didn't wake up and say, I want to have depression because that's going to make me the best me. It just happens, right? And we
Mhm.
all experience it, but since there's so much shame behind it, it really takes a brave person to kind of speak and be that supportive person for that other friend.
All right, and I have a question for you, and then I'll move on through the chat. Is is there a difference between sadness or being sad and depression?
It is. Yes, it is. I feel like sadness is a maybe 1 or 2 day thing, or even like a couple hours throughout the day. But depression, remember, there's other symptoms, right? So whether you're irritable with it, whether there's um, you isolating more, your negative thoughts, there's something always connected to that sadness, and usually they're irrational, and that's the most difficult part. I hear that from my clients. I know these thoughts are wrong, but I still beat myself up about them all the time. Yeah. Mhm.
Definitely a difference. That's why I was glad when Erica covered the symptoms of depression versus sadness, because you will pass by some people that may say that, oh, I'm feeling depressed, and they may actually, I mean, they may be feeling depressed. We can't tell anyone how to feel, or they may be sad. But even knowing like some of the signs and symptoms, it'll definitely let you know the difference between the two.
Mhm.
Another question for you is there a difference in depression and being content? Like, and it says, is telling yourself you're content a sign of depression?
Okay, so when I just heard that statement, I thought of someone who doesn't feel hope, who is hopeless about their current situation. Um, so yes, so just knowing that there's options, that there's ways to feel better. And if you don't know, now granted, right? Like I said a lot. I didn't say enough, but I said a lot. Um, you can still reach out for help, right? There are so many, many other ways to get support. And if you feel like you can't do it alone, it's okay. That's why we're here, honestly. So you don't have to feel alone. And that, there is relief.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? I know I went through the questions in the chats. Any question, comments? And I know I have someone asking for the resources, so I'll probably have you, Erica, at the end, either say them or put them in the chat, including your book information.
Thank you. I have in the chat already the first link. If you want to join my email list, keep up with me. Feel free to do that. But it's also a direct link to more self-compassion exercise. It's about 4 or 5 on there. So if you want to learn more about self-compassion, feel free to get on that email list and you'll get it right away. So opt in.
All right. It's at the top of the chat for those who can't find it.
I will put both of the links in here.
Anyone have any questions or comments? All right. Hi, Joyce. Oh, I see the hand. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Kim. So my question is, it's just a general question. So, people that are going through depression, should they go around people that is going through depression as well? What do they do, or how do they communicate with each other?
I do believe that it depends how severe that other person's depression is. It's nice to feel that we are not alone. So I do feel like it can be a support group, but if they're not there to change their mindset, you can also fall deeper into that mindset of depression. So it's not a yes or no, but it's nice to feel that you're not alone. But at the end of it, we have to come up. We have to support each other and be that person to call, a part of your routine.
Thank you.
Anyone else? There's something else I want to add. Just before
Sure.
anyone else has a question, it's really important to either go to your doctor or go to therapy for depression, because there's also different levels of depression. And depending on your level, there may be different options for each person that they may have to take to help with their depression.
Yes, definitely. I didn't want to go too much into it. I
Yeah.
want them to feel like they're in school, but definitely, because you would have felt like you're in school. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you know when children are battling depression or going through depression?
It's a good question. I really feel like how they interact with people, whether they're isolated. I feel like anger is the number one thing for me, at least in my practice, what I see. And then once you understand that their history of what's going on, family history, certain situations, and then you can, put the links together. But just doing a full assessment and a psychiatric evaluation will be the ideal. Mhm. Anything out of the norm, sorry. You definitely want to look at and focus on. So whether their grades have declined, their sleeping is not the same, they're doing more like risky behaviors, um, they're just not happy, and they used to love to play with toys and trucks, but they don't anymore. So like the loss of interest. So the symptoms are the same, but it does present differently in kids. The severity of it. Mhm.
And then another question I overlooked, caretaking or taking care of loved ones in depression. Do you have any advice for people that are in those situations?
Yeah. Um, Once again, finding that support, right? Um, of other people that are in that situation. I really feel like if we have that support, we don't feel alone. And that's one of the biggest things. Like this only happens to me, like my life sucks. Like what happened? But when you find someone that can speak your language, that can, benefit or not benefit, has been through what you've been through, that can also help as well. Mhm. Support is big. And I feel like depression can isolate us. So if my answers seem similar, because that is the biggest thing, is like getting it out of your head, talking about how you feel, and being around others who want to support you.
I like that. Any suggestions for those that may be seeking support, especially during the pandemic? Because you know how things may either they're barely opening up, or they're you can't really go any places, or there's a fear or hesitancy about going anywhere. Any suggestions on how people can get that support?
Okay. Oh, I heard a couple things, and I forgot to add this in a slide too. So glad you mentioned
It's
that.
okay.
Forgive myself. So most jobs have an EAP, right? So it's like an employee assistant program. You can do 2 or 3 clinical sessions. That's a good way. If you don't feel comfortable going to a therapist's office, some of them are doing telehealth, or you can do BetterHelp or Talkspace, which is another online platform. So outside of the clinical realm, but just staying supportive with each other. So whether that's a Zoom link, you're doing game night, which I think is always great. Finding ways to connect with each other. And, I feel like you can still be social distance in different areas, right? So I'm in Jersey, and they're opening up more. So you can still go to a restaurant if you feel comfortable, you know, if the space allows.
All right. Anything else?
Mm.
Anyone? Any comments?
And if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to others, reading is a huge piece as well. I feel like the more we know, the more we can understand, and that shame kind of gets stripped away a little bit. So reading anything that has to do with depression.
Right. I don't, did you want to, so there's a question of, do you know about ginger?
Ginger for
Uh-huh.
for
Behavioral
depression?
health?
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand the
No.
question.
And I know I was, did you want to
Is it
Yeah,
elaborate?
yeah. My employer offers Ginger. It's a behavioral health, like a mental health type of. I don't know if it's an insurance or just another. What do we call it? What do you call it?
so it's
Benefit.
free to you, right?
Yes,
As
yes.
the yeah.
It's
So I think
another
it's the same
benefit.
as like So do you have EAP as well?
I have EAP as well, and I also have Ginger.
Oh,
Also,
that may be more. Oh, no, I've never heard of it. What state are you in, if you don't mind
I'm
me asking?
in Arizona, but this is the first time I've seen it with our benefits before. And so since I've been listening to Kim's show, so I've been paying attention to the type of benefits that my employer offers. And Ginger was new. So it
Okay.
was the first time I've seen Ginger. So
Thank you.
yeah, it's interesting. It's Ginger Behavioral Health.
Okay. How many sessions are you allowed to get?
I don't remember. I have to get back to you, but I know it was a lot. I have to get back to you just to make sure.
It's more long term because like I said, EAP is short. It's like 20.
Yeah, short, yes. But
Oh,
Ginger, I know they said we had to have the main insurance in order to do the Ginger as well. So it was a lot different than EAP. So
mm,
but this was definitely new.
okay. Cool. Thank you for
Nice. All right. Anyone
But
else? All right, Erica, you were awesome and a wealth of knowledge on depression. I am glad that you talked about depression. You slayed that depression. And she has an awesome book, 110 Writing Prompts to Cope with Depression. Boom, there's the book. I
Ah,
have the book. I'm a therapist and I have the book. And the book is awesome. So,
yeah,
Erica put our information in the chat. And before we close it on out, Erica, if you can let us know where to find you on social media.
sure. Erica Gilliams, on IG, on Instagram, and I'm sorry, Instagram is IG, and Facebook as well. And my website is ericagilliams.com. And you can also shop my book online, and it's $19.99.
Nice. And we can find it on your website too, right?
Yes,
Or,
yeah.
okay.
Um, Amazon actually has it on sale for $11. So if you want to get it cheaper than me, I don't care. I'm just here to help, honestly. So you can do that. If not, you want to buy from me, I will sign the book and give you a little freebie in it as well. But the link is in the chat.
All right, nice. Thank you so much again, Erica Gilliams, LPC author. She was on Under the Scope. We are knowledgeable and we can go tell everybody else about depression and what they can do about depression. Okay. No more suffering in silence. Let's spread the word. Erica will look for you on social media. We'll connect, and everybody under the scope will be back next Saturday. It's the 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. So tune in because I have more goodies for you. All right. Hope to see everybody again on Under the Scope. I'm Kimberlyn B, your host. Wear good tea and reads welcome. Have a great day.